Good morning, everyone. It's 9 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to the September 23rd Pennington County Planning Commission meeting. First item on the agenda is roll call, and Kathy and Sunny are gone, and Ron is sitting for the board. First agenda item is approval of the September 9th, 2019 minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes?
I move for approval.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the September 9th minutes. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item is the approval of the agenda. We have items 3 through 15 on the consent agenda, item 16 through item 16 on the regular agenda, construction permit agenda items 17 through 20, followed by the county board report items from the public, et cetera, going to 25. Are there any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries. PJ, go ahead.
Good morning. PJ Conover, Director of Planning Department. Consent agenda. The following items have been placed on the consent agenda for action to be taken on all items in accordance with staff's recommendation by a single vote. Any item may be removed from consent agenda by any planning commissioner, staff member, or audience member for separate consideration. The findings of this planning commission are recommendations to the Pennington County Board of Commissioners, who will make the final decision. Item 3, conditional use permit review 1014 for William and Carol Shea to review an accessory structure, which is a garage, prior to a principal structure in a suburban residential district. Staff recommends approval of the extension of conditional use permit 1014 with 7 conditions. Item 4, conditional use permit review 1226, Mark and Mary Hansen to review a vacation home rental in a suburban residential district. Staff recommends approval of the extension of conditional use permit 1226 with 12 conditions. Item 5, conditional use permit review 1514 for Darrell and Mary Harkin to review a single-wide mobile home to be used as a permanent single-family residence in a general agriculture district. Staff recommends to continue the review of conditional use permit 1514 to the October 28th, 2019 Planning Commission meeting to allow the applicant time to obtain a building permit for the existing double-wide mobile home. Item 6, conditional use permit review 1810 for Ray and Aaron Atkins to review an accessory structure or garage prior to a principal structure on the subject property in a limited agriculture district. Staff recommends to continue the review of conditional use permit 1810 to the October 28th, 2019 Planning Commission meeting with 1 condition. Item 7, conditional use permit review 1829 for Denny and Lee Henriksen to review living in an existing shop building while building a single-family residence on the subject property in a low-density residential district. Staff recommends to end conditional use permit 1829 with the applicant's concurrence, as it's no longer needed. Item 8, conditional use permit 1834 for Doug and Vicky Dahl to review a second ranch hand residence on the subject property in the general agriculture district. Staff recommends approval of the extension of conditional use permit 1834 with 9 conditions. Item 9, conditional use permit review 1907 for Black Hills Kart Racing LLC, David Price, to review a dirt track to be used for dirt track racing on the subject property in a general commercial district. Staff recommends approval of the extension of conditional use permit 1907 with 15 conditions. Item 10, conditional use permit 1901 for NMMC Incorporated. Terry Saylor is the agent to allow for a vacation home rental on the subject property in a low-density residential district. Staff recommends to continue conditional use permit 1901 to no later than the October 28, 2019 Planning Commission meeting to allow the applicant additional time to address the outstanding issues and with 1 condition. Item 11, conditional use permit 1923 for Margaret Steele to allow for a ranch hand residence on the subject property in a general agriculture district. Staff recommends approval of the withdrawal of conditional use permit 1923 with the applicant's concurrent, as it is not needed. Item 12, conditional use permit 1924 for Wilkinson Family Living Trust to live in a shop building while building a single-family residence on the subject property in a low-density residential district. Staff recommends approval of conditional use permit 1924 with 8 conditions. Item 13, Plan Unit Development Review 0607 for Rapid City MHP LLC or otherwise known as Cimarron Mobile Home Park, to review a plan unit development to allow a mobile home park. Staff recommends to continue the review of plan unit development 0607 to no later than the November 12th, 2019 Planning Commission meeting. Item 14, Plan Unit Development Review 0902 for Salvation Army, to review the Salvation Army Camp Plan Unit Development. Staff recommends approval of the extension of Plan Unit Development 0902 with 20 conditions. Item 15, Minor Plat MPL 1925 for Julie Benson Wilbur to create lots 1 and 2 of Thorstenson Benson Ranch subdivision. Staff recommends to continue minor plat 1925 to the October 14, 2019 Planning Commission meeting in order for the applicant to submit percolation tests and soil profile hole information, or to submit a subdivision regulation variance waiving these requirements.
Thank you.
welcome.
Are there any items that staff would like pulled from the agenda?
Item 12, please.
Okay. Any items that the membership would like pulled from the agenda?
Number 3.
I'm sorry, which?
Number 3. And for the audience members, these items are on the consent agenda. We will vote on these in one vote items, and that would include items 3 through 15, less number 3, and less number 12. Are there any items that you guys would like pulled from the agenda to be heard separately? Okay. Hearing none. Is there a motion for approval of the consent agenda items 4 through 11 and 13 through 15?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Brings us to item number 3.
I'm just making you earn your pay, so I have a question. I'm just curious about, I noticed this, this property, this is going on 10 years now that this has had a structure without a principal structure. And I'm wondering, what's the philosophy here? Does this go on indefinitely? And we now have a new owner who is going to continue to do the same thing. And what is our goal when we restrict people from doing precisely what these people have done? And I'm not objecting necessarily. I look at the picture and it seems like it's in a mature neighborhood. The structure is well maintained. There's certainly not an eyesore or a hazard in any way. But I'm just curious, what does this go on indefinitely, or do we at some point insist that something more substantial be built there?
Cassie Bolstead, Assistant Planning Director. Sorry, I'll try to talk as loudly as I can today. I don't have much of a voice. This one, it did recently just get sold. It's my understanding that this property actually at one point in time had a single wide mobile home on it before they actually got the conditional use permit for the accessory structure. There was a single wide that was taken off of it. I don't know that there are any plans to do anything in terms of platting it together. That would actually have to be done through the city of Rapid City because it's in their platting jurisdiction. I don't know that they plan on putting it together at any point in time. I think they just want to keep their garage there for right now.
Okay. Well, I'm just curious about this because these things come up rather often, and I'm never quite certain why we're restricting people's opportunities to do with the property what they want, unless there's a reason. I'm sure there's a philosophy that would contend that this is not a good use of the property, but I'm just curious because it's gone on for a long time, and it sets a precedent that I'm not certain it's bad, but I'm suspecting could be bad over time and more broadly applied.
Yeah, Commissioner Coleman, you're right. There are some that have been existing like this for over a decade. There's been some that have been 15 years. And so we have tried to honor what we could with the Planning Commission's decisions back then, but we tried to prevent any coming up in the future. We put the restriction on them.
Okay, maybe that's my point, is that we be alert to allowing this to happen in the future, because there's people always have an excuse and oftentimes a compelling reason to do this, but it can't simply become what this has become, in my judgment. So, okay, that was my only question and concern. Thank you.
Just so you're aware, conditional use permits now, after a conditional use permit is approved, they have 2 years to bring that use, to make that use exist. And then after that use exists, they have 1 year to maintain that. But these were allowed despite that over the years. So.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Thank you.
Any further questions on item number 3?
I would
Seeing none.
move for approval.
Second.
Motion and second for approval on item number 3. Further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries. Item number 12.
Morning, Commissioners. Jason Fennison, County Planner. Agenda item number 12, I had to pull because I needed to add a couple more conditions to it beyond what you've seen in your reports. The applicant, Nick Wilson, has applied for conditional use permit 1924 to live in a shop building while building a single-family residence on the subject property. Zoning ordinance lists 5 factors for the Planning Commission may consider in their review of conditional use permit applications. They are on the screen for your review. I'll just read the responses. Number 1, it appears that by allowing conditional use permit, there should be no negative effects on the use or and enjoyment of other properties in the immediate vicinity. However, staff cannot predict the impact the use may have on property values in the surrounding area. Number 2, allowing this conditional use permit should not affect normal orderly development or improvement of any surrounding property in the area, as the use is temporary in nature. Number 3, the applicant has indicated they will not use an existing on-site wastewater treatment system to serve the proposed shop. The applicant will need to obtain a new on-site wastewater treatment system construction permit for the proposed shop. Number 4, Pennington County Planning Zoning Ordinance requires 2 off-street parking spaces for single-family residents. It appears that adequate parking is provided on the subject property. Lastly, number 5, the proposed conditional use by its very nature should have limited odor, fumes, dust, noise, vibrations, and intrusive lighting. The proposed use should not create any of the above listed elements in the amounts that would constitute a nuisance. As it sits today, the subject property is zoned low-density residential district consisting of 3 acres, takes access off of Mystic Road. There is no special flood hazard area. There are 2 existing tool sheds on the subject property. This is actually what leads me to one of my conditions I had to add. One of those is this one here, which is on Department of Equalization records. And then I found a second one during my site visit, which is this structure here. This structure here. And so I needed to add a condition that this structure be removed prior to construction of the shop building. With that, the applicant has proposed to build a 60 by 80 foot shop building on subject property and utilize approximately 30 by 30 feet of it as living quarters. The request was sent out for interdepartmental review. The U.S. Forest Service had no objections, but noted that there is a private road easement in works for an adjacent property, but it does not include this property. So the other condition I had to add was that the applicant work with the U.S. Forest Service to ensure that he has legal and permitted access to this property. And with that, staff recommends approval of conditional use permit 1924 with 10 conditions.
Thank you. Just so I'm clear, the 2 conditions that you added were, 1, that the shop shown on the screen now gets removed, and that they work with the Forest Service on access. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for staff on this item?
Were those the only additions to this?
Yes, ma'am.
I see. Thank you.
Can you state what the condition want to read so I can get that in the minutes?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Recommendation from staff is to approve conditional use permit 1924 with 10 conditions. Is there a motion?
I move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second for approval. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries. I believe that brings us to item 16.
Good morning, Cassie Bolstead, Assistant Planning Director. Item 16 is minor plat 1927. This is a request to create lots A and B of Knotty Pine subdivision. The applicant is Will Parsons. The surveyor is Howe Land Surveying. You guys have seen this one recently in layout plat form. This property is currently 11.64 acres, zoned limited agriculture district, and access is off of Knotty Pine Lane. It currently contains a single-family residence, a detached garage, and an on-site wastewater treatment system. What he is proposing to do is subdivide this into two lots. Lot A would be approximately 8.64 acres and contain all of the existing structures on the property. Lot B would be 3 acres and is currently vacant. According to the applicant, Lot 3 is proposing to be sold to the property owner to the south. So September 20th, the Board of Commissioners did approve layout plat 1926 to create these two lots with 8 conditions. And the applicant has also applied for a lot size variance to reduce the minimum required lot size from 10 acres to 8.64 acres and 3 acres in a limited agriculture district. That request will be heard by the Board of Adjustment at their October 1st, 2019 Board of Commissioners meeting. This minor plat was routed through the interdepartmental review process and nothing of significant concern came back. So staff is recommending approval of minor plat 1927 with 7 conditions.
Thank you. Are there any questions on item 16?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
I'm just wondering why, and I guess I've wondered this and pondered this before, why are some under the consent agenda and others aren't? What is there about this that set it aside from that?
One's continued, and then also what's contentious, the things that we've received complaints about.
I'm sorry, you received complaints about
We
this?
had, no, this was contentious the last time it was up to be split into 3.
Oh, I see.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions on item 16? Seeing none, recommendation is to approve the minor plat MPL 1927 with 7 conditions. Is there a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
Motion and second. Further discussion on the item. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, no. Motion carries. Brings us to construction permit agenda item 17.
Commissioners, before Cody comes up, you'll notice in the agenda, this is a new intro to the construction permit agenda section. We were hoping to be able to kind of head off any questions from possible the public or anything in the future by adding this paragraph. So Cody will be up here to start this off in a second.
Hi, morning, Cody Sack, Environmental Planner. The following items have been placed on the construction permit agenda to be heard for public comment and will not be voted on by the Planning Commission. Any Planning Commissioner, staff member, or audience member may comment on any of the items. Comments received will be considered by the Planning Director, who will make the final decision on the construction permit.
Good morning, TJ Duref, Planning and Zoning. This is agenda item number 17, construction permit review, CP 17-12. This is to review the continuing work initiated under construction permits 1305, 1402, 15-14, and 16-09. The proposed project includes stockpiling of soil for future use on site and to continue reclamation of hay pasture west of 5th Street. The applicant's name is Lazy P6 Land Company, or Orville Davis, and the site location is at the intersection between 5th and Catron Boulevard. The construction permit request is just to continue the work initiated under the previously mentioned permits, and which includes the reclamation of hay pasture west of 5th Street, continuing and placing of stockpiles of off-site soil material for future use on-site, and miscellaneous channel maintenance and removal of debris and sediments. On September 17th, 2019, staff performed a site visit with the applicant present and verified that all conditions of approval are being met. The applicant does continue to stockpile soils on the property to level an area for a possible future development site. And he continues to hay the designated field stated and would like to continue the permit as long as it takes to complete the project. Staff is also recommending that the scope of work only include reclamation of disturbed areas, stockpiling of material, and the haying of the designated field. Staff will be recommending approval of the extension of construction permit with 8 conditions to the planning director.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments for staff on item number 17? Seeing none, moving on to item 18.
Co-Stack Environmental Planner. Item 18 is construction permit 1902 to review constructing a gravel access road to and onto a subject property to include minimal tree removal, grading, gravel, seeding, and culverts, and to add a common trench for power and communications. The applicant is Site Work Specialist. This was last heard on August 26th. The work is done. They just needed to reseed. As of September 18th, staff contacted the applicant and they did reseed, and they said that there's about 25 to 30% vegetative cover. However, staff at the time of the report was not able to verify that the site had been reseeded and meets conditions. I'm hoping to go out later this week to verify that. They have a construction permit to continue the road onto another property. So with that, to verify it, staff recommends that the planning director continue the review of construction permit 1902 to the October 28th, 2019 Planning Commission meeting with 12 conditions.
Any questions for staff on item 18? Seeing none, we will move on to item 19.
Item 19 is construction permit 1908 to review the repair of an existing dam. The applicant is Mitch Morris. This was first approved by the Planning Commission at the June 24th, 2019 Planning Commission meeting. The applicant has not signed the statement of understanding, and one of the conditions from the original approval was that the applicant or landowner have an engineer do a report to show that the increase in size of a spillway will not have a negative effect on the drainage. That has not been completed either. So with that, staff is recommending that the planning director continue construction permit 1908 to October 14th, 2019 Planning Commission meeting with 6 conditions to give the applicant time to try and meet those conditions.
Okay. I have a question on 19. Has the applicant indicated when they can get that stuff done?
No.
The challenge that we face with this property, this is now Pat Hall's property, and his agent is Brian Hammerbeck, and they're putting it on Mr. Morris to do all the work because it was in violation prior to the sale. And so we're working through basically Brian and Mitch trying to get this done. Brian gives Mitch deadlines and doesn't meet them, and then we're stuck in the middle, so.
Ultimately, it's the landowner's issue at this point, right?
That is correct. That's why Brian's involved on Pat's behalf.
Okay. Yep. All right. So do you think that you will have what you need by October 14th? Hard to say.
Yeah. Even, in the past with construction permits, as long as they're working with us to get to that point, like we know that they've been working with an engineer to get that, we kind of give them the benefit of the doubt, but it's one of those things where I'm not sure. I can't guarantee what a person will do.
Sure. Okay. Any further questions on item 19?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Ron.
is that the facility north of that dam? Is that the tie converter?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Okay.
It is.
Any further questions? Seeing none, item 20.
Good morning, Brittany Molitor. Item 20 is a construction permit to construct a road and level an area for a future building site. The area is located at the intersection of Highway 44 and 385. The applicant, Willard Ranch Trust, is requesting a construction permit to construct a driveway and clear an area for construction of a single-family home. There will be approximately half acre of dirt work. The applicant has also indicated they plan on platting the property in the near future to allow for construction of the single-family residence. And the planning office did receive that application for a plat and a rezone for that property last week. So you will see that at a future date. As it exists today, it is owned general agriculture district. The total property acreage is 61.83 acres. There is special flood hazard area on the subject property. The lot does contain a manufactured home and a shop and a pole building. And there is an existing ranch hand residence up in that upper left, right-hand corner up there. Staff did route this through the interdepartmental review process. No items of concern came about. The county highway did make a comment that if they do plat it, that there would need to be an easement dedicated for access off of Merritt School Road. Staff did perform a site visit. No work has commenced yet on the property. So staff is recommending that the planning director approve the construction permit with 12 conditions. So is there any questions?
Thank you. Any questions on item 20? Okay.
right,
Seeing
thank
none,
you.
move on to item 21.
And Commissioners, just so you know, the agendas are written, Wednesday of last week, so we got to change some of the tense in this statement. So this number 20 should read, the Board of Commissioners heard the Planning Commission's recommendations from the September 9th Planning Commission meeting at their September 20th, 2019 Board of Commissioners meeting, and they had no objections.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Seeing no items from the public, we will move past item 22 to item 23, items from staff.
No items, sir.
That's interesting.
Unless you want some.
Normally we have A, B, C, D.
Or there's at least I've got something to add now.
Right.
I figured you'd be surprised.
Item 24, items from the membership.
I will not be at the next meeting.
I might not either. Let me look at the calendar. Next meeting is the 14th, right? Oh, I should be here for that one. I know I'm out of town, but I come back right before that one, so.
The 14th?
I will be here, yeah.
Okay.
I was thinking I was going to be out because I know I'm out of town for that, but I come back right before it, so.
You got a 2-week break,
Yep.
basically.
But Jim, you're gone.
Yeah, I'm gone.
Okay. Anything else from the membership? Seeing none, that brings us to item 25, adjournment. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion and second for adjournment. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
We're adjourned.